Yeah, it's funny. After rehab and everything else, I started going cleaning out a storage place I had.
We gravitate towards music for our social well-being. It wasn't a social atmosphere, it was our social well-being. That was a part of us that was the makeup of our existence, the makeup of our life.
So I asked him, I said, why don't we get a band together? I said, I don't know how to play anything, but I write poetry and stuff. I can probably put some words down. And now it looked like you were going to make a commitment to something that we weren't normally used to, so.
And just thinking back of like, we could have had something, man. We really could have had something.
I wasn't into the mischief and shenanigans that they were every weekend.
Me, I always thought it was exciting. And that was pretty much where the bickering, between those two started.
That I just didn't want to be involved in all this. I couldn't let it all go.
Everybody had their own little vices and everybody was being pulled different directions.
More than a few, and a lot that you would get your ass kicked for it.
I think maybe punk bands wanted to have that appeal.
You would think that we would maybe clean up our act or do something like that. Some exec was looking at us.
Well, live fast, die young, but these guys haven't died young, thankfully for them.
It's rock and roll, baby.
They had promising music, good band. Looked like a future ahead of them, and then all of a sudden, gone, vanished.
I don't know, maybe 16, 17. First guy I met, I knew Evan. He seemed like a pretty cool guy. He was into the same type of music I was into. We just started hanging out and just started jamming together.
Well, I'm local. I've been in this area in Delco as a young kid, out of Chester, in the school districts, kept by myself pretty much. Wasn't really into sports a whole lot.
How I grew up in Aston, I went to, 9 schools and moving around a lot. We finally moved out to Aston when my parents bought a store out there. My dad worked a whole ton, so I didn't really get to see him a lot. My mom kind of shuffled us around. We had a lot of family.
My dad died when I was younger. My mom raised us. I got a couple brothers, a couple sisters.
Both parents worked. Dad worked 2 jobs. Siblings, I had an older sister. She was 3 years older, so you're not really too connected with. And my younger sister's 10 years younger, so there wasn't a whole lot of home life where you're with your siblings a whole lot.
Yep, my mom was a Motown lady. My dad was a Deadhead, Stones guy.
The music's always been in my household. My mom and dad were playing all kinds of music in the house.
The bass was there, it was never an instrument. It was Pete Townsend of The Who in his writing. And he wrote about life. He wrote about stuff you're like, you know what? I went through that, I did that.
For me, I would say, without a doubt, it would have been John Bonham. Right. Because I think that, as soon as I heard him, I was like, I'm going to try that. Yeah. And then I still try and do John Bonham today.
The Kinks, the Beau Brummels, a lot of the Kingsmen, a lot of the influences of the garage band influences. Late 70s, Ramones were a big part of my growing up.
That's always what it was. Music was an escape where you could walk away, you could shut everything out, not just by putting music on, but getting into the music. And that's where it was. It was like you found solitude in it. You're like, this situation I'm in really sucks, but I'm going to go home and put on who's next, or I'm going to put on, because I know side A from 1 through 5 will just relax me and put me out.
When I wanted to play drums, man, I'll tell you what, it actually for me started with the piano. I saw the sting, the piano sting thing. I can't even forget what the hell it is now, but when I saw that at one of my older sister's recitals, a kid played it, and there was a kid with a drum set behind it, and I just couldn't take my eyes off it.
You know, a couple of my friends had a guitar, and, you know, they wanted to start this band, and, you know, it just, I just wasn't into what they were playing. Right. I just wanted to play my own stuff, so, you know.
The bass was in the band room. I mean, you know, you always joked about the big upstanding bass and all that stuff, and the booming sound of it. So just the sounds of that was kind of unique. And then going back and looking at The Who, and you saw this guy who just stood there alone and whistle with the bass.
Together? Just basically, you know, cover stuff. We weren't, like, weren't writing any songs together just yet. We were just, you know, just jamming more or less. Right. Back and forth.
So Charlie and I would practice and just you know, investigate music together, and that's where it kind of turned into suddenly writing new songs, writing new music, writing down lyrics. We were really complimentary when we wrote lyrics down. He had a ton in his head, I had a bunch in mine. They were pretty much on the same page that we could come to agreement. So these jam sessions that we would go to just play other people's records turned into the start of playing our own music.
A little bit, yeah. I was in a band before, and I didn't, you know, I got tired of those guys, so I just wanted to hang loose a little bit and just jam, just get together with somebody that liked to play.
So what happened?
Cancellations. He wasn't around as much. He was talking to other people that in bands, things like that. These other bands, as I found out later, were more established.
Well, you know, he wanted to take things. He was taking things a little more serious than I was. Ed was, and you know, I was playing with different bands in Philly, and you know, like I said, Evan and I just wanted to jam together. But you know, apparently he wanted to take it a little more seriously. Our time, after we got to the point where my interest was now peaked and I thought, all right, this might be going somewhere, started to wane because he wasn't around. Just the scene was things were dead out here, you know, and just some of the bars out there, it was bigger crowds, so, you know. So what Charlie said to me, you know, that I'm not going to be able to do this. You know, it was fun and all stuff, and I might be back, but right now I'm going to concentrate on this. And I just thought, you know what, you're not going to stop this in the track. So I knew these other guys wanted to play, and
You grew up with these guys, yeah?
Roundabout way, yeah. Some of them. Yeah.
What was that like?
Individually, yeah, it was a good time. Yeah. Made me into who I am. Made my thick skin.
They're a little rough and tumble. I figure. Tell me about Handsome Buck when you saw him live.
Total command of the crowd and the stage. Buckley was he was a performer. He was a frontman, and always got into it with the drummer though. But it was just part of the act, I guess. Sometimes it looked real. You couldn't tell if it was scripted or not, but they would go at it sometimes. But the way he worked the crowd, it was pretty cool to see.
I met him in Little League, and he was the kind of guy. You ever see the movie Sandlot?
I have. It's been a while.
So there's a catcher in there who just, when you're going up to the plate, he just talks to you, and he gets you off your game just by talking to you. That was Handsome Buckley, to a T. He would just, you know, get you riled up. He was an instigator. He was, you know, if he wanted you to move on and, you know, have a great time, we could do that. But if he wanted to fuck somebody up and he got angry at him, he would fuck somebody up.
They never got rid of that part of it. Like, they'd always want to fight, especially Handsome. He want to fight everybody, that fucking guy. He'd fight at a drop of a hat. You look at him wrong. Yeah, he'd fight anybody.
Without question. Yeah. He was all that.
The dick.
Oh, yeah, everything. He would run you over. Yeah. He would, you know.
By the time he got into the second song, his hair was a mess. So it was, between the fights and the beer flying everywhere, and jumping off the stage, trying to crowd surf?
Buckley was always singing down the halls. You always knew when he was coming and going. He always was singing, and he wasn't afraid of that. So you knew that if you brought him up on the stage, okay, yeah, this is showtime for him.
Hey everybody, this is Handsome Buckley, born and raised in Chester, Pennsylvania. Born at Sacred Heart Hospital on a Monday night at 10 o'clock, October 13th, 1969. The typical saying goes is we all had a common interest. You know, we all liked the Ramones, we all liked Social Distortion, we all liked the Sex Pistols, and then one thing led to another, and it's like, hey, let's start a band.
They all seemed off, but they all somehow got together and made some pretty damn kick-ass songs.
So we were at the point where there wasn't anybody really didn't have a future. You know, nobody had careers set up or you know, going off to college or going into the military. So we were just in it for fun.
Yeah, he says Charlie split. So I said, why don't we do something? You know, if you're not doing anything, and me and Dave are just in my apartment writing songs, why don't we try to put something together?
They wanted to play with residuals. You know, why do you want to join a band? I want to join a band to play music, to get girls, to play up the street at the bar, to get free beer. Like, it was never critical for them to enhance and to move forward with their music. It was something to do, something to tell someone I'm in a band.
It was just acoustic at first, and then we found a rehearsal studio, and we loaded everything in. We said, listen, let's not make it. If this doesn't work, at least we tried. But if it does work, then we got something. Right. And, you know, it worked. And we started playing.
So Dave was friends with Handsome, and he said, you know, there's a guy that can play. You know, he can play just as well. And him, they were tight. They were very close, and they included Knuckles in a lot of stuff. And me, I was still on the outside. Yeah, I'll come and hang out, but I wasn't attached at the hip like all those three were.
Me and Dave met in high school. Actually, before that, probably junior high. I would sit behind him in a class, and I would shake his chair, just shake it and shake it and shake it, and he would laugh, and he would get in trouble.
We knew, you know, they were the misfits. They were the ones who, you know, carried on in school and carried on that. But you know,
so then after high school, we got done high school. We kind of went our way for a little bit, and then I remember calling him up to see if he wanted to go to the Ramones show at the Tower. It was the Escape from New York show. So after that, we were kicking around the idea of having a band. Friday and Saturday nights, we meet over my apartment. We drink all night long.
Handsome and Dave had been writing. They found out through a mutual friend that I was playing. They asked me to come join them. They had a handful of songs, probably more than a handful, maybe a dozen songs. And they gave me a timeline. They wanted me to learn these songs. I learned them, and you know, we came out. Then you add Evan in there, and you know, it's felt like, you know, it was something at that point.
That's when the band started. So we would practice over my father's basement because we had no place to practice in the apartment complex. So we're in the basement, and my first microphone stand was a movie projector screen. I tore off the screen and I taped the microphone to the screen because I had a tripod on the bottom. That was my first microphone stand.
They were always together. They would always, you know, on weekends, you know, Dave never was anywhere without his guitars.
Dave had just a flair about. There's certain people that you play with that can just pick stuff up by ear that aren't really technical, but they get it, you know, and they can hear it. And I don't know how to explain that, but some people can just hear something, and when Handsome would say, no, it has to go da 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 da, you know, Dave would be able to pick that up, and that's just an impressive thing to see for you know, if you're a fan of a musician.
Like, he had a lot of influences, a little bit of blues, some metal in there, but he played really tight, and yeah, he was something else to watch. He definitely was.
And Dave was just, he could play riffs and he could just play along with it, and Handsome just fit in the lyrics where the riffs went, and that was it. And me and Knuckles just kept the beat.
You could feel him get into the music, and he was one of those guys where if you made a mistake, Handsome would always, you know, point out your mistake even into the microphone and tell the audience who fucked up.
Knuckles. Great drummer, keeps a good time. Very opinionated. If I sang off key, or sometimes like I'll put a squeak in my voice, or not like a tweak in my voice, and he'll stop the whole set, say, "Why'd you do that?" Like, I'm a lead singer, I can do whatever I want.
And Dave would just be like, boom. If you stopped, he would stop, and it would just be over for him. And he was just that kind of a guy that was just like, all right, we didn't do it right that time, but this is how it got wrong, and this is what we want to make right. So.
Well, I was very frustrated when Charlie left, and just said, my mindset, was gone. Now I'm resorted to playing covers again and just playing, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be our own band. I wanted to move on. So I said, look, we're going to do this. Let's start throwing our own songs in there.
If you liked the music and you wanted to play, and you had guys that were willing to do it, I was in. Right. So what's better than driving around?
I told them, if we're going to do this, you need to get together and practice more than just Saturday with a case of beer and going through it. So they took it serious because they, again, didn't have any direction in their lives.
When we put this band together, we sat around at a table. We all had our drink of choice, and we said, what's the goal for this band? And the very first thing I said, I just want to play a show. I want one gig in a paying gig. And if that works, I'm happy. And then as we did that, then it's like, okay, we're going to start doing some originals now. Okay, let's introduce our music, our attitude to this scene around here, this dying scene in Delaware County.
It could be something. Like initially, it was like this could be something. You got some stuff. I mean, when Hanson walks down with 4 notebooks, and you're like, all right, we probably only need one to start out. Before we're throwing everything at the wall.
Who was the leader of that band?
I would say I was, definitely.
In what way?
Well, look at me. I'm a lead singer.
No, we're just, pretty much a garage band, and those guys already had, 30 songs that they already know, and it's like, here, learn these in 10 days.
That was the hard part, was paring it down to, let's find 3 or 4 and not 10 and 12 songs, and pare them down to where we get good at them and work them from the beginning to the end. And they didn't like that. They were like, oh, let's jump to this, and this works in it, So I always felt that I was the jerk of the band that had to pull them together and say, listen, all right, focus. That was, I think I used that word more with the band than anything, focus.
Evan kind of lucked his way into the band where we needed somebody, and he was there. He wasn't really a tough guy. He was more of a jokester than anything. Everybody's sitting around, and he's always busting balls, which, sometimes he can go over the line a little bit.
And the man was crazed. I mean, he was just, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm a wreck.
Evan worked on his trade, you know what I mean? You could tell he really wanted to be the man. But when they started to get out of hand, you could see him pull back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not into that.
Yeah. I mean, Evan, good guy. I think that though Hanson was who Hanson was, and at that point in time, he was pretty much calling the shots.
I remember one time we were sitting at Denny's at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he just kept on going and going and going. And finally I looked at him and said, listen, motherfucker, you say one more thing, I'm going to drag you out in the parking lot. And that was it. He shut up.
I always liked Evan. Evan was a straight guy. He kind of got on us about the way we partied so hard and everything else, and we kind of got on him like, dude, you gotta lighten up, and it's all, that's what we're here for, rock and roll, you know what I mean?
So Cheeks was a popular sports bar. It was starting out that there was a couple bands that wanted to play and looking for a venue. We knew the owners. He said, look, I got a band want to play. I can guarantee you 50 people. I can guarantee you 75 people.
Cheek was a quasi mafia bookmaker. The son was an idiot. We called him Fredo.
Cheeks was a place we all hung at. We basically grew up there. We went to school down the street from there, so it's hometown. You can play there. You can play there. 20 people there.
Come see us play, even if it's for shits and giggles. They'll come and watch us play. So he was like, all right, there's no sports on this weekend before football season. Why don't you give it a shot? So he gave us a try.
So many times at Cheeks where we would play there, the money we paid off our bar tab. That's how Cheeks was a great place, small, intimate.
Telling the guys, hey, you got a first gig. We're playing at this bar. Oh, I know that bar. Knuckles right away. How much do we get to drink for free?
The drummer. Yeah. That dude was a fucking a mess. I don't know how they ever played
like a maniac. So everybody was, the energy was there. Initially it was like, all right, we can get through all this, and that's he plays this way, but it wasn't at that point. Sloppy fall down, couldn't hold it together. A 2-hour rehearsal turned into an hour because he couldn't finish. It wasn't like that at start.
Our first gig, I don't know if you know the story of that, but a lot of people still tell me, oh, I was at the Cheeks pub when you almost fell over 4 or 5 times, and that was because Handsome had a thing where we didn't have the technology you have today. It wasn't like you could text somebody and say, hey, what's up? I would always call Handsome. I'd be like, what time, when's this gig, when's that gig? He actually that weekend told me that it was a weird weekend, that it was on a Sunday when it was a Saturday.
Then that tells you how drunk I was, because I don't remember the Cheeks gig.
I ended up drinking early, not even thinking I was going on, and then he calls and says, where are you? You're late. And I was like, he told me it was tomorrow, and so I was bombed walking on there, and honestly, I don't remember much of it at all.
It was crazy. Place was packed. People were going nuts the whole time. Fights here and there, but music kept going.
Maybe once. I don't even remember a whole lot. Like maybe one time at the Ponderosa, and maybe once at the ski bar.
I was at the Ponderosa.
Loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like you were a rock star at that point on, my drinking just went right past the end of the show, through the wee hours.
It went from there. It was a good night. I think that when you have your friends standing in front of you rather than just people you don't know, and you kind of get that swagger and you kind of want to play, and then they wanted to play well, so it was good. Handsome was, wasn't over the top. He was reserved. I think he was nervous, so he was reserved a bit more.
The first couple shows, they were like, you get your quirks out. One guy ends a little too early, one guy, plays the wrong note, but we understand it and we know it, but the audience doesn't know it. They just think, hey, this is great music.
Very big chance, or very good chance, I should say. That's why I not latched onto them. That's why I stayed with them when they were looking for help. Back scenes help, I should say.
So what was that back scenes help?
Get them on the right road. What kind of work there is to be done behind the scenes instead of just going up on a stage and doing whatever they wanted to do. Right. There's a lot of work behind the scenes to do it, and they couldn't do it themselves, and they needed to learn that.
Let's do it this way if we can do it that way. It wasn't really anything cut and dry, cut in stone for me. I always wanted to, let's find what most of the people want to agree on and go that direction. And
right. You're glad to be fourth on a bill. You're glad to be, the first one setting up. You didn't care. You're looking around. You're going, I know this place. I saw bands here, and but I'm on the stage instead of in front of the stage. And again, tried to reel people in and say, listen, here we are going to be facing the audience instead of looking from the audience. And they got it. They weren't starstruck, I would say. They started to live and feel the way of the band.
Oh yeah, then we started kind of solidifying a schedule and, getting a little more familiar with everybody else's schedule, because now it looked like you were going to make a commitment to something that we weren't normally used to. So yeah, it became more serious, I think, at that point.
When you start out, you have that goal, and nothing nothing gets in the way of that.
It's a 2-hour trip to New York and sleeping in the van to drive home at 4 a.m, to crash in the van. And you start to learn about the bandmates and their idiosyncrasies and things like that.
Like, you don't know whether you're going to have 2 people in the audience or 100 people in the audience. My thing was always you have to play like there's 1,000 people every single night, because one of those 2 people, they may be an A&R guy, they may be a record guy, they could be nobody. But if they came in, they paid the cover charge, you better be on your game, and you better be playing the song.
We're rising. We're going. Let's keep that train going higher. Let's go up the mountain and not be happy where we are and start to accept it.
For me, again, that's I was trying to talk Campo into, whoa, what are you doing, dude? I mean, this is what we, talked about pioneering. This is why we bought music cords.
You guys get offered your first tour. Dave can't go. How's that feel?
I was kind of like 50-50 because I know that he wanted to go, but he also has loyalty to his family. So, was I upset? Hell yes, because I knew that he'd be missing an opportunity of a lifetime. I knew, and he was there, and my mind kept going back to, dude, me and you in my fucking apartment till 4 o'clock in the morning writing songs.
I mean, if it wasn't for Dave, I don't think I would have, lasted in there as long. He had family stuff and he didn't want to leave that. He was committed. I think, at that point, he was one of the youngest guys I knew who had a kid. And, he was a family guy, great guy. I mean, I certainly didn't want to see him go. I tried my best to think of everything I could think of to keep him, coming back.
Yeah, I mean, you finally get that break and say, look, this is go for broke, let's do it. And we knew Dave was not always going to be there, but we would never approach the subject because we didn't want it to happen. So, talk about it, it's not going to happen. So suddenly we get this break and it's like, you need to make this decision and do this. And we say to Dave, all right, we're going to do this. And he says, I can't.
I think I had just gotten out of rehab.
Decided not to go back to the city?
I was trying to straighten up, and in the city there was a lot of, I was just trying to get away from that scene and trying to get back to my roots.
So that was more of, this is now the stopping point. This is our break and we're going to bypass it. Right away my mind went to Charlie. He didn't have that stopping point. He got picked up and he went and he got the break. I was on the right where I was going to be, and someone else was now stopping my break.
I came back for a couple months, and then I think he realized that I was back home, and he contacted me maybe a couple months after I got back. Yeah, through word of mouth, people saying, Charlie's back.
I was always like the last one to know about stuff, so I didn't pursue it that much. And then when they said we're going to keep going, I just kind of had faith in that they would go find somebody that would, be able to fill that void.
Charlie's a great guitar player, and Charlie knew the licks.
Which at the time I thought was great. Which, like when you can replace somebody right away, and I'm not having to put ads in East Coast Rocker saying, hey, we need a guitar player, we need somebody to come down. Here's a guy that, went to Philly, languished with the Philly crowd, and kind of fell out due to whatever reasons, and boom, he's available.
I like the way these guys played, so, I came along. I thought maybe I can guide, we can, I thought we gelled at first.
Charlie was a different, he's more technical, that guy who could just, he wanted it structured a certain way, and it was just a different type. But I mean, the difference between Dave and Charlie is, had a lot to do with, I think, the connection between Dave and Handsome and Charlie.
I had a little bit more experience playing in other bands and everything else, and tour and everything. I thought I could be the guy to take them up to the top. We started getting popular. And
you could just tell that the potential was there, and in hindsight, you see that you were, correct in that assumption.
Boom, the crowd hit you with the excitement, I looked at the guys, I looked around me. I said, you guys ready to fuck this place up? They all shook their heads and we fucked that place up.
I mean, the Dorfs they were out there, man. And if you weren't out there, you got run over, and it was kind of like, oh, we were the immature little bastard child of the bands, and these guys are going to mess everything up, make sure they go on first, or make sure they're last, so nobody, could get involved with, all the havoc and mayhem. But, I mean, we didn't make too many friends out there, that's for sure. I mean, I'm probably a big reason of that, but
yeah, we could say that. Yeah, we could say that the influences of maybe some alcohol and some illegal substances were there.
You guys were going a million miles an hour.
oh yeah, enjoying every minute of it.
You did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Even playing, there's a couple times we were up there and somebody's playing one song and somebody else is playing another song, and and then shit starts to happen on stage. What the hell's going on?
Some of the cocaine stories are off the charts.
Mushrooms. Acid made me skittish. Mushrooms was more of a groovy high, you know what I mean?
I was not a no guy. Whatever. Yeah. You got one for me? I'll take it.
And it's almost becomes a little protective of these people and say, look, I want you in my band because I think I can continue you away from your internal demons, not the ones you're going to encounter later on in life, which they did, for God's sake, but the ones that they were running away from.
They were building a gathering. A following. And they were earning it, but it was happening fast. So,
you're just used to playing in local things, and then all of a sudden, it just started to grow and grow and grow. So we were kind of surprised about that.
You shoot up and not earning it. It's like a spoiled child.
Right.
You never earn it. You never learn how to do anything.
How was touring? When you guys started touring?
Touring was great. Nothing better, man. 4 or 5 guys packed in a van, up and down a highway. You're going here, you're going there, stopping at truck stops. You're drinking all day. You're taking pills all day, and you're having a great time. Occasional fist fight in a road stop bar. Some guy thinks he's going to challenge you because you got spiked up hair or you're wearing a leather jacket.
They were doing the regional runs non-stop. They were done a few week tour. They a couple days or a couple weeks off and go back for another 4 or 6 weeks, which any band has to do.
A little bit of a homeless life, but that's what you are, and you hope that where you're going to play that night got you through to where you could do it again the next day.
But when we show up to a city and we pull up in our shitty van, and you see kids sitting on the curb waiting for you to show up, and they see the Dorf Dorfmans spray painted on our white van, right. And we're like, holy shit! All these kids in leather jackets, their hair all punked up, and we're like, that's a pretty cool feeling, And some kids, they weren't old enough to get into gigs. They would sit outside the venue and listen through the walls. That's when you're hitting somebody. When the people that can't get in are so in tune to what you're doing that they sit outside just to hear the vibrations through the doors and through the walls. That's when you got something.
Following was building and building and building. There was buzz going around. Maybe a couple labels were sniffing around. Not so much legit labels because of that music. No one really wanted to touch them unless you sounded like Nirvana or who's that other garbage band? Pearl Jam. That shit.
Whatever gig we went to, the fans wanted to see us. They didn't care about the other people.
And they were waiting for us to come on stage. And then they start chanting, Dorf, 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 Dorf. And then you hear that in the back. And and all of a sudden the chant becomes a rumble, and the rumble becomes a thunder. And I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. And there's no greater feeling in the world knowing that your fans are out there supporting you. Some driven 100 miles to see you for 35 minutes.
Oh, the other bands that we played with, nobody liked to play before us. They didn't like to play after us.
The fact is, nobody really wanted to open up for us because they couldn't. And nobody else wanted to follow us because they couldn't. Their managers, their fans, like it was almost like they would want to come by and like take a peek in our room just to see what we're doing after the show. If we just did that on stage, if we just assaulted 5,000 people on stage, they wanted to see what the monster was in the back room. Are they punching holes in the wall? Are they throwing champagne bottles? Is it? Sometimes.
For me, it was colleges because, you know, it was kind of like a free pass, you know, and everybody was out. You know, you're on a college campus, people are just getting fucked up just because they don't want to be around school book anymore. And, you know, we were happy to fill that wood for them.
It was insane, man. You're up there and you're just into the groove and the fans are just kicking back and just, you know, everybody's into it. There's no better feeling than that.
I could be mistaken, but I'm thinking the Middle East up in Boston. That was one of their better shows, off the top of my head, if I think about it. But that was one of the better shows, at least while I was there.
Into it.
They were into it. It's Boston. They were pissed drunk. Yeah. It goes without saying.
Hey, there's always stories afterwards that we can't believe, you know, we survived that trip, but at the time, you were just trying to plow through and get the music through.
You get 35 minutes, and I would tell the guys backstage, I said, you know what? In this 35 minutes, we're going to fuck every other band up out here now. I don't care who they are. This is our stage. And that's the way we approached it.
You know, I think we had a little bit of pride in that people were recognizing us, and, you know, it was cool to be in your own hometown and know that. So, you know, I think that we kind of looked at one another and bonded over those types of experiences where people could say, oh yeah, I know that you were, you know, playing last night, and it was kind of that cool thing. So
I think when things started rolling with us, we wanted to be like you know, the Beatles. We wanted to be like the Ramones, you know, just another band out there to make it big, just to hit somebody hard, take over and forget everything else.
It's the people that were at those shows for them with that kind of music, no doubt knew how Europe handled bands like that. So of course, American kids, drunk off their ass, they're gonna throw shit, spit on them, fight them.
It doesn't matter. Now, one guy says something, and you know the whole crew starts barking.
Half the time, there were brawls and everything before and after we played anything. It's insane.
Did that ever put you in danger?
Always.
Was that any kind of resentful for that?
Was I resentful for that? No, because I knew what I was getting into. I knew the job.
Evan, he's usually cowering in a corner, and then we get to the back. You know, after the show's all over, it's like, you know, why'd you have to do that? It's like the guy spit on me. What do you want me to do?
So when you were the first band, and you know, a half hour before you're supposed to go set up and you can't find your singer, or you can't find your drummer, or you're looking for them, or you find them and they can't stand up, and you're like, listen, we go on first, we're going to screw up the whole night, then we're going to screw up this booking, or you're second or you're third, and the same thing happens. You know, these bands that you hope to aspire to get where they are, or you use them as influences now, and you're collecting their demos at you, and now you're pissing them off because you can't go on, or you go on and your lead singer vomits on the stage where the guy's going to stand in an hour. You feel inadequate, and you're apologizing for somebody that you don't feel at the end of the day you should be apologizing for.
Let's just say Evan and me, we're cut from two different cloths. Okay. You know what I mean? He's got a little yellow streak running through him.
We had multiple fights with bands before, you know, we're the headliner, you're not the headliner, we're here, they're here to see us. It was crazy.
Yeah.
What the other bands think of all this stuff?
They thought we were fucking nuts. They wanted to party with us after the concert.
Did it wear on these guys afterwards or what?
Some of them.
Yeah.
But you know what, again, The road's not meant for pussies. You got to be a fucking man to be on the road.
I didn't really give a shit. And you know, you gotta remember drummers, man. You know, everybody had their own guitar. You had to, if we didn't, you know, if we opened up for somebody, I had to basically go sell myself as this cool guy who, can I please use your drum set? And the fact that I'm left-handed really fucked with people, because they're like, what do you mean you gotta rearrange my drum set before I go on? But, you know, and when, you know, they're out partying, you're halfway through your set and you're moving stuff around to make it more conducive to how you do it, you know, then they start, you know, that asshole drummer. You know, so, but I always had Sansom behind me, so I didn't really give a shit what anybody else done. But when it came down, the old knock.
So they'd start to, you know, rehearse or you know, sound check. They're already fighting, you know. When they start fighting, out comes the bottles. Then once they start getting enough of that, then the other shit happens.
There were a few, yeah. It's just they basically need to be put in their place, so to, you know, like remind them. Someone needed to remind them where they were at and why they were there and what the big picture was, instead of this, you know, piss fits.
Which happens in bands.
It happens all the time at bands.
You know, you have 6 or 7 rum and cokes, and you're on that plane right there where I'm feeling good, and then I'm a happy drunk, and then you have that next rum and coke, and something sets you off. Now I'm that angry fighting drunk, and that's when you got 4 or 5 people in a band like that.
Yeah.
It's like a powder keg.
I don't need them fucking up on stage or backstage, and you got like 200-300 people out there, pissed drunk, and they're looking to fight anyone, and the band doesn't show up. They're gonna wind up steal our equipment. I've seen that happen.
You know, you never really worried about safety. I mean, you worried more about your equipment than you did your own safety. I mean, you jump in front of the drum kit before you put Charlie's guitar through it, or Buckley throwing his micro through. I mean, that's what you did. You worried more about the travel than your own safety.
No, we all thought we were going to get money, man. Yeah, we all thought we were going to get famous. That's what we were in it for. Yeah. You know, the chicks, the money, the booze, the drugs.
Not the booze and the drugs.
Well, you know, that wasn't from anything that we purchased. You know, it was just given to us. Right. You know what I mean? It's just like, but yeah, we thought we were all going to get famous.
Oh, I think he always had, you know, Handsome saying, we only need 1% of the population to like one of our songs and we'll be millionaires. So, you know, you hear that enough times, you start, hey, shit, if we get a 3-minute song that can, you know, somebody likes, you're right. You get that on the New York DJ, boom.
As their following built up, their guarantees started going up. More money per show. So, of course, everyone's gonna, you know, there are gonna be people coming out of the woodwork. You need a manager. You need a professional manager. They didn't. No one at that point needs a professional manager.
Governor Ritchie. You know, I don't even know where that guy is, and I don't really care to know where that guy is. Yeah.
Because I'm getting the same reaction from everybody else. Yours was actually kind of tame.
Well, I'm older and more mature now, so it's not like I can flip out and fuck somebody up on sight anymore.
Would you have? Would you if you see him?
If I saw him now? Nah, not on sight.
Governor Ritchie is a guy that'll promise you the world and doesn't come through with anything.
Yeah, he didn't really strike me as anybody who was capable of managing his own self. From what I saw. I don't know how they ever got it hooked up with that dude.
I think I guess, man. He played He played this big hero that he was going to, make us the next big thing.
Next thing you know, we're losing gigs. We're losing showcases.
I'd never got along with him. And I think that when you put enough hours and time and money and, trying to get a vehicle off the ground, he was just fighting every way every step we went up, it felt like we fell back down 3 with that dude. And I tried to tell everybody that.
And what instrument did I play? So these guys wanted to be rock stars, but they couldn't talk. They couldn't talk to the owner of the club or this. Oh, they're going to play Philly. They're going to play California. They were in outer space half the time.
He's a snake. They're all snakes. They slither around and look for an opportunity. And amongst the stuff I had to do, there's going to be an opportunity somewhere, and for him to come around and chirp in their ear when I'm not around. I mean, I can only say this, a certain amount of things, a certain amount of times to people. When
he wanted to control the situation, and it seemed like his mission was to drive it into the ground.
And then gigs that we should have had, like showcases that we had lined up, all of a sudden Richie gets involved and we don't have them showcases anymore.
These people, you act like they were Juilliard musicians who wanted to fill the world with music. They wanted to drink and get fucked up. That's what they wanted to do.
We never had a manager. It was always bookings through phone calls, or I was making the calls. So maybe that's what it was. I wasn't having to take that lead-in direction of the band and calling booking agents and finding directions to the gig and doing all that stuff. Here was a guy that was willing to take all that on for a small percentage. Okay, well, I was willing to give up percentage of the money I was making just so I could get back and enjoy the band and not have to worry about where the next tour was, where the next gig was, where we were going to stay. Because a lot of that fell to me because, A, I didn't trust members of the band.
Then this guy comes out of the woodwork. Comes sniffing around. Not sniffing around, slobbing around, like his mouth was watering.
It was all word of mouth. We didn't have to have a manager or anything like that. Yeah. It's when we started getting bigger, that's when... that's when Governor Ritchie came in. He saw some cash.
I was working on this 7 days a week.
Working on what?
Setting up things.
Money changes people.
Yeah.
Money changes a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Sometimes you'd see him scurry around in the background or, run into the van outside, but always that like he was on a mission every time I saw him.
He's not a street guy, okay? Like, besides Evan's not a street guy, but the rest of the guys were street guys, okay? So we know what we're doing. We're very street savvy. These guys have these big grandiose dreams of, I'm going to get you this, I'm going to get you that. Well, show me it. Give it to me.
The plan was to keep them playing in the hopes that they would straighten themselves out. Until that happened, no, there's no plan. You got to walk before you can run.
Who's he to be qualified to rescue anybody? You know what I mean?
I don't know, sometimes you put your trust into one person, and you know it was wrong in the beginning. You don't know it was wrong in the beginning, but then you find out. But then you're so into what you're doing, there's no way to get out. You know what I mean?
Quite frankly, I think he was out there to sabotage our whole deal. He was in it for the money, and he wasn't in it for the band. We were all about the music.
I don't know whether they cared about the music or not. Are they saying they care about it now? What have they done with it the past 10 years? What happened between 95 and now? Oh, they're caring about the music?
I mean, he's smart.
Yeah.
He knew all, he sees 500 kids in a place in a little dive bar. I think these guys are working. These guys could probably make some money.
We all thought he was this godsend that's going to take us into stardom.
History is told by the winners. You are getting your history from the losers.
Compared to who?
Compared to someone who lived it straight and narrow.
He didn't necessarily come with any kind of pedigree, anything like that, but you trusted him.
Well, again, we discussed earlier about our demo tapes, where he only wanted one tape, and he lost it. So we had a piss poor copy of that, only because I made it. And that's the tape that actually circulated. But I don't know where the demo tapes are. I don't know where anything are.
I was backstage when they were setting up. I just got there a little early. And Handsome walks up to me and says, "Here, we made this tape. See if you could find anybody at school that would like it."
But you gotta remember, everybody kind of pitched in there. You know, it's, again, not like today where you have to digitize a song or recording something.
I knew a couple people in the campus radio station. So I took it back. I take it to the DJ. I said, "I think you really need to listen to these guys."
Put a tape that you want on, put it in the next deck, and just hit record, go have a meal, come back, and you'd have a tape done.
That was cool. That was the music. That was, everybody always had a tape. I don't care if you went on top, everybody had a duffel bag, and it was loaded with cassettes.
It's hard to explain. You got to listen to it. So he listened, and he loved it. So he said, "Hey, tell me about these guys." So, neighborhood guys, I grew up with them. I didn't tell him anything about how they performed. I kept that under wraps.
Yeah, we had a lot of tapes. We had, we'd set up our little recorders in there and play each rehearsals and things like that, getting ready for the the bigger gigs and stuff. And Handsome had a recorder.
Next thing you know, I'm listening, and they got it on. All right. And then I'm hearing people calling in and saying, "Hey, what the hell was that? I never heard anything like that."
And it was kind of gradual thing. You start playing for X amount of kids, and then the next year it's like, we're turning people away, just trying to get into these places. Right. And it just got huge all of a sudden, real quick.
About a month, steady, that I would hear it more and more during the weekends. If you got played on Saturday night in college, you were doing something.
It was almost like Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed has these tapes, and he sprinkles them in the colleges. And then all those tapes, they take root, and people started listening to them. And the next year that we went, there was sprouts of fans that came to see us. So those basement tapes, the ones we don't have anymore, because of Governor Ritchie, they helped us tremendously to gain fans.
And you hear that, I made 2 more tapes of that to this person, and it just kind of rolls downhill. And I was shocked at how the tentacles it reached. It was pretty wild.
Next thing I know, I got these people calling me from like Lock Haven and Slippery Rock, and they're saying, "Hey, we hear you're the guy that knows this band, the Dorf Dorfmans." I'm like, "Yeah. You got any more tapes? You got any more music?"
It's because of these tapes. Because what was on these tapes was so magical that you couldn't, and even if we tried to recreate it, you can't. Right. It's like catching lightning in a bottle.
It's music, it's notes, it's singing and dancing, it's jumping around, it's whatever you want to call it. It's about making money. These people, you want these people to do free shows in New York and free shows in Philadelphia and free shows here and free shows there and sell free cassette tapes, give away free tapes instead of making money.
I was their man. I managed what they did. I didn't have the title because I didn't want the title. And if you give me a title like that, not to sound like a dick, you're gonna have to pay me like one. Yeah. So I didn't want it.
Well, with Dan, the direction wasn't there. He had some connections to call places to do it, but again, it wasn't the vision of, it was, hey, you can play here.
We played in front of a lot of people, and all of a sudden, we don't have any money. We can't get anywhere. I don't know. Ask Evan. Evan's a freaking, Governor Richie guy.
I guess because I had the connection with him, I had more trust in him than the others did.
There is all that shit that you don't want to deal with when you're out all the time. You don't want to have to fucking talk to the people where you're playing with. You don't want to have, so you just send that motherfucker out there. And, he did it all wrong.
We saw the cash too, but we knew we were good, but we didn't foresee we should have picked somebody else, man.
I can't fault him. To me, he tried.
So you got a manager at the frickin' Walmart. They hire people. They fire people. A manager of a band. What, if this guy's giving me a problem or that guy's giving me a problem? Now, I always liked Evan. He is cool. But I'm not the manager. I'm the babysitter. I'm the booking agent.
Richie was forced upon me. I never wanted him.
I mean, then he got into Hanson. You give Hanson whatever he wants, and Hanson loved him. And then, I hated the dude. I couldn't even stand looking at him.
Well, let's get one thing straight. There's a lot of animosity towards everybody in the band, because that's just the kind of band we were. Like a family. Everybody fights. Everybody. Somebody's got to be the leader. I'm the leader. Somebody's got to be the mother, and Evan, because he's always bitching and yelling. But there's got to be that guy who takes control. Okay, and I got sick and tired of taking control because I was a dick in the band.
I don't know what to say about that, man. Doesn't shock me.
Dude, he's always has an attitude about something.
There was no direction. One person had direction, and I tried to get the other people in line, and it just never seemed like it was going to go anywhere in a professional manner. You can play live, and you can, have your demos and everything like that, but to make a polished record and follow up on it afterwards, it just never seemed like that was going to materialize.
The band. So I see where this is going. Everybody sees this rainbow, and they think if they follow it at the end, there's going to be this pot of gold. There's not always a pot of gold. You get there, and where are you? You're still in your own head. These guys had problems. You say I killed the Dorfmans? I saved the Dorfmans.
I tried to explain things, how they're going to happen, why they're going to happen, when they're going to happen. I've been there. I have the experience, and you guys need to listen to me. They chose not to, and because their heads were fucked up.
Yeah, half the time on stage, we're just like out of it. I don't even know how we got through some of the sets that we did.
Getting ready for a gig and knowing that nobody's actually prepared to play.
Who wasn't prepared?
All of us were. Again, we were all, we were all kind of, some gigs are great. And everybody was on the same page, even though you're a little fucked up.
Once you got them away from each other, they were pretty down to earth. And when they were sober, they were a lot easier to talk to.
I didn't really fight with the band. I argued with them. I tried to reason with them. And I don't know if you've dealt with people with substance abuse problems. No. You can't talk to them. It's like talking to a wall. Yeah. You can't explain things. You can't reason with them.
My father was back in the day, a top executive for Juliet Records. And we would go to, I was young. He was older, obviously. We would go to different venues, different bars. He was always looking for a local band.
And I tried to explain things, how they're going to happen, why they're going to happen, when they're going to happen. I've been there. I have the experience, and you guys need to listen to me. They chose not to, and because their heads were fucked up.
I didn't know at that point the end result. Just people were were coming to shows, were coming, to see that. But again, when you're relying on, your management per se to assess the situation and do what's best for the band.
And they were living a destructive lifestyle of drugs and alcohol. Did they tell you they had problems, or were they librarians and choir boys? What did they tell you?
So we're just looking. They didn't start playing yet. Well, they played a few songs. And my father and I looked at each other and just went, wow.
We didn't know he was there. We're just doing our thing.
Well, after a few songs, we just said, we gotta meet these guys. And, they were really something. We just told them that we were really floored by their talent as well as their overwhelming stench. But aside from that, we just told them that they had it, that they're special. We just knew it. Painful to look at, like I said, but they were special.
It was a moron who they put in charge to try and deal with things to get us out, who couldn't do it ever. There was always something going on that was non-band related that he had to deal with.
We don't hear this shit until, it's already passed.
Well, yeah.
And what are you going to do then?
And nobody told us. Nobody told me. That's what, again, we wanted, you don't join a band like Kurt Cobain comes out and says, I never wanted to be famous. Bullshit. Right. Okay. Kurt Cobain could have stayed under his fucking bridge, played his acoustic guitar, played the little shit dive bars. He didn't have to sign a big contract, but he did. Okay. I wanted the money. I wanted the fame. I wanted the cars. I wanted the house.
How did that work out for Kurt Cobain?
We ended up tracking down their manager. He went by Governor Ritchie, I believe it was. And we gave him our card. Well, my dad's card. I felt I was part of, the whole thing. And so we gave him the card, and we never heard anything.
Look, their music was fueled by drugs, alcohol, anger, love, hate, self-loathing.
Okay, so we did. Okay, yeah. Oh, so that the well-being. He's looking out for us. So we're better off now that we're alive. That. Okay. Well, good for him.
Listen, these guys were going down the wrong path. Well, so now, okay, I'm gonna book him in California. I'm gonna book him in Japan. I'm gonna book him in Tibet. I'm gonna book him in Tibet. Who the hell cares? They would have partied more. They would have drank more. They would not be here for you to talk to. I saved these people.
We'd be dead. Okay.
Through your.
Well, I mean, if we did sign that, then you wouldn't be here making this documentary or whatever you're doing here.
You tell me, smart guy. What would they have done with the money?
Because we wouldn't have to go through this. You'd be seeing me on Hollywood Boulevard or something, maybe OD'd somewhere else, but still, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now.
All right, what are we going to experience on this tour? Is everybody now clear ahead because we're going forward with, the next level, we're higher up, or are we going to do the same thing we did at the end of last tour?
Well, I think once you actually put all in, you're all in until you can't take it anymore. And I think we just had a bunch of guys that could take a lot, and they could dish out a lot, and it kind of, snowballed, and some of it was good, some of it fell apart.
So there was always friction in it.
Friction, yeah, fucking A-Ray friction.
Is that what caused you guys to be great?
There's a video of the Ramones in one of their last performances where Joey's walking off and Johnny's walking off, and they both cross paths. They don't see anything in each other, and they don't look at each other, and they just walk away.
People just start to irritate, you know what I mean? It's not like I mean, we were living together, we were traveling together. It's like almost like 24 hours a day we were with one another. It's not like being with your family where you can just like go off somewhere. Everywhere you went, there was somebody there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, that's just like being so close knit together. It's like, you know, you hate the one you're with, you know, when you're with them that long. It was, you know, a lot of brother-like fights, and
we used to say fuck you to each other all the time. We always used to have little fights here and there. We were brothers, man. We were just brothers. You know, you fight with your brother and you make up.
You know, and a lot of arrogance and ignorance, and that'll bring the drugs and alcohol into it.
Explain that, arrogance and ignorance.
They thought they were bigger than they were, and it came out in arrogance.
And people saw that.
People saw it. They didn't think people saw it, and then it reflected in their shows.
You know, I heard sorries the entire time we were out. You know, when a gig would get, you know, blown up after 2 songs and we wouldn't get paid, or you know, that's all you heard in the van on the way home was "I'm sorry," where the band itself was already imploding and going to self-destruct, and all you were going to do was blackball and alienate yourself from the music business after that.
One time, you know, I was just so incoherent that I don't think I woke up for like 4 days.
yeah, Charlie's drinking was, actually everything Charlie did was to the 11th, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, he was off the charts always. And for as regimented as he was, as technical as he was, everything about his life outside of that was the polar opposite.
You know, I always try to make a point to, after the show, say, listen, what the fuck was going on out there? You know, people come to pay to see us. We gotta straighten this shit out. You know, we can't be fighting on stage. That's not going to sell tickets. But we try to squash it, but then, you know, you get to the next gig and something happens and it happens again.
They were polishing off something. I mean, whatever type of liquor you could think of. And the screaming, the yelling at each other. I guess it's just the look that they wanted.
Well, you know, being the rhythm section, me and Knuckles, and you had Handsome as a singer. I mean, you hate to throw anybody strictly under the bus, but if Handsome's going to go up and be not in his right frame of mind and changing keys and going off script and that, it affects the rhythm section. As a bass player, I can do that, but the drummer, it's very glaring.
Sometimes I couldn't get the sound in the room. You know, I don't know what to say about that. You know, you got a manager who's supposed to work with a sound guy, and I can't hear everybody going on, and I'm out in front of them, I'm behind them, I don't know where we are because I can't hear the lyrics. You know, everybody does it. They think I did it more than anybody else. You know, fuck them. They did it just as much as I did it.
What was that last part?
Nobody else was called out on stage, just Knuckles.
Because he fucked up the most.
You know, Knuckles would get frustrated because he's, you know, attempting to finish a fill or something like that, and the song's already going on. So he was one for carrying extra sticks just so he could, you know, target them at Handsome, which, you know, he's trying to be the glamour boy in front of people. He don't want to take a stick to the back of the head in front of other people. So
he kind of got a little, you know, angry with me. You know, I was writing more songs, and the guys were liking my songs, I guess, a little bit more than Handsome's.
And then me, you know, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was a pretty good front man.
Yeah.
You know, I stood there and I sang each lyric with conviction and aggression.
After a while, he started getting a little big-headed about things, and, you know, nobody really know. I don't even know how the group started. You know, I don't know who formed the group. But he kind of was a leader at first, and when I got in there, he's like, you know, I don't need you guys.
You got people giving you stuff, just like they're kissing your ass. They're telling you the greatest thing ever. It's hard not to buy into that.
You know, he started fucking up things sometimes on purpose. Some of the songs that I was doing, you know, we had it back and forth a little bit, but it,
you know, becomes redundant. And, you know, to have somebody who had a fresh idea and a little bit of a catalog of it, it was, you know, nice to learn something new and everybody be around to learn it. And, you know, again, Charlie had that thing about him where he could tell people no 2-4 here, 1-3 there, all that kind of stuff.
I liked being in the gutter.
Yeah.
I liked the down and dirty, Van Halen 1. I didn't like Van Halen 2.
He helped Handsome a lot. He, with adjusting to music and things like that and how to do it.
Yeah, that's why it was easier to go against Handsome than, what we had done before. So, it's like, look, this dude's done it, you haven't, let's just try it this way. And, most of the time it worked out that way.
But let me just add one thing. Okay. All those other guys, they get to hide behind an instrument.
Right.
Okay? You got a guitar player, he's hiding behind that guitar. The guy's hiding behind the bass. The drummer hides behind that big kit. Me, I'm in no man's land. I'm out there standing behind a pencil-thin mic stand with a microphone.
He got a little pissed off, and that's when he started messing up the songs a little bit, or playing his songs while we were supposed to be playing another song. It got a little heated.
People coming up to, oh my God, you don't need these guys, you don't need this. And again, you start to believe that shit, whether it's true or not. But I will tell you one thing. When that band was on and we were fucking tight, nobody could touch us. Nobody.
Some of them would be pretty bad, man. Blood, stitches, many a drumstick broken, and I never saw them hit each other with their instruments. At least they were smart enough to do that.
Last time I saw him, fights everywhere. Everyone, including the band, was drunk. But the music was still good. Don't know how it happened, but it works.
Did they finish the show?
No, I don't think so. I think that just end it, and probably instruments were broken. I don't know. It was such a mess of a night. But
that was their reputation.
Yeah, it was. But there was other shows that at least you could walk away from and remember most of it, and that one was just a mess.
Yeah.
It was a little bit over the top even for them, I think.
So our expectations were to play this last show, and then that was the last time we were playing Cheeks, last time we were playing the Martinique, last time we were playing the Chameleon. We were going to start opening for bigger bands.
It could have been such a grand finale and a start in both ways. It could have been a goodbye to the hometown and ready for the next level.
So tell me about that last night.
The last gig we had, we came back and it was kind of like a goodbye to the hometown crowd. It was like we're going off. We're going to be big stars now, and
we had played a couple shows down in Carolina, I guess it was, that were drunken shows, cut short, things like that, when influences had affected the band.
But the reality is that all that time on the road and all that closeness of driving in a van from one spot to another, we were burned out and we needed a break.
We only got like 5 songs in, 5, 6, whatever it was. I'm not even sure. It's hard to remember some things, and it just went all haywire. It just went crazy.
Handsome was my equates to Jim Morrison. Just, he was up there. It was him and these guys behind him.
I was a front man of the band. My name is Handsome Buckley. Okay? You get off stage, there's women there. There's guys who want to shake your hand. There's promoters there. There's record label people there. I'm up on stage thinking like all these people in the crowd, they came, which was great. They're rooting for us, which is awesome. But in reality, I'm thinking this is our last time we're ever going to play together.
When we got all fucked up together, it all just went to a mess, and
it just went nuts. We just started smashing things, punching each other. We were just going crazy.
Evan couldn't look at me. I didn't want to listen to his shit, and fucking Governor Ritchie. Fuck.
And do you think, well, first of all, Knuckles, anybody could sucker punch anyone.
Hit him over the head with a pool stick. I loved it. Laughed my ass off.
I don't know what it was. I was out cold.
We just stormed off and said F you to everybody and just went our ways. Went our ways with everybody, and the whole band. Just,
I got a sense of resentment, I guess, just because he was into it and wanted to keep it going, and he was trying to keep things glued together, but probably could sense that things were going off the rails.
And what could have, turned into a great end of a night with everybody just turned into what all the other.
And that was it. You put your bass through Knuckles' drum set and proceeded to just walk out that front door and never look back.
Yeah.
And haven't seen him since.
No, because every time you start to think about one, the others creep back in, and I'm not going to go there.
The writing was on the wall. I didn't ask anymore. I didn't ask for any more tapes. I didn't ask for anything. I never told them that, after the initial, because they asked me, I think Evan asked me if I got any more feedback, and I said no. But I did. It was pretty good. But by then, what are they going to do? I saw the writing on the wall. These guys were heading nowhere.
And we just kind of almost never heard from. And because of their excess, because of who they were, maybe, because I don't know. Could have passed for all I know. I mean, you never know.
They were sick in the hopes that would motivate them to clean up their lives. There is no good ending for this story.
You got to understand, when I left that band, I had a pretty bad addiction. Okay? I spent many nights alone. Okay? With a bottle, with a baggie. I spent a lot of nights alone. And, when you're asking me about those guys were part of that. And when you go to recovery, they tell you to, you got to separate yourself from the people that you hung out with. So that's what I did. I did my steps. I came out of it.
In a group of friends, just passing, but sometimes I think I see somebody and I don't know. No, I don't talk to anybody anymore, and I think that, in order for me to get better personally, I had to kind of get away from that.
Charlie, only because of the younger age that we, identified musically, it was boredom, and that, brought Buckley in and Knuckles, and then it was the youth that brought us together.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I think about it. Sometimes, I could care less. Some of the stuff's just done. I'm just done with it.
I continued on the road. I stayed on the road and stayed in the music business.
Great.
Yeah.
And that's what you do today?
Still, yeah.
Nice. That's great.
Made a nice living out of it.
I don't want to be a judgmental person either, because me, personally, I've been through it all, and everybody in the world has a reason to hate me. I've given everybody that reason. So, do I hope and wish for them, for their sake, for their family's sake, that they've cleaned up and they've become better people? I hope and pray that.
I'm at peace with it. I can't hold it over his head. Things happen in people's lives for a reason, and they do things for what they do. Others are going to be bitter and anger towards them. I can't.
I can't, pick on anybody. I'm fighting those demons myself. People still see me in a bar and they throw a shot down at me, and it's a tough thing to turn down, but.
Some of the bad memories, I don't like to hang on to bad memories, dude. I really don't. I don't, I try and let them go. But, every once in a while they'll stem back up, but most of them are really good.
for whatever reason, I think that space and distance needed to happen with everybody.
The best times that we were the greatest friends and the best is when we were on a hiatus for whatever reason. For, when we didn't, everybody talks about nonstop touring, but even when you have 2 weeks off and you didn't see people for 3 days and you would get together at a backyard barbecue or something, that's when it happened, because you weren't in the tense moments of the band. You don't want it to be tense, you want it to be fun, but when you weren't in that band atmosphere, I think that's when the friendships came through, and you would laugh about something that somebody did that we all found funny, but at the time you were too worried about your next gig or going on stage, and you didn't have time to enjoy that.
Like some people, they say you walk in, one guy has a nice big desk and it's all clear, and the other guy, you walk into his office and there's shit all over. But that guy with the shit all over, he might be the better business guy, because he thrives in chaos, he thrives in that. I get the reason why I was in a band, for that excitement, okay? I thrived on it, that adrenaline, jumping out of on bungee cord, I thrived on it. And it's a tough thing to give up.
You always have the ifs and wants, but you would want those to come back to you and say, I found my errors in my way, and I think what we had was good.
But you're going 25 years without talking.
Yeah, because no one's come back and said, I've erred in my ways and I'm ready to carry on.
So now I'm in my routine right now where I get up, I go to work, I tend to my fish tank.
It wasn't all hell. That's the best time. That was the best time.
That's my routine right now. So I'm trying to stay in that routine, and I don't want anybody to take me off of that routine.
Actually, in this band is being on the stage performing with these guys for people.
Because all it takes is one thing to trigger me.
Getting your music out there, getting our music out there.
And that one thing that again, my wife might not see me for 4 fucking months.
Having somebody feedback on this music, you know what I mean? Something that you got, that we wrote.
For most of my life, I've had a self-destructive personality, where things are going really, really good for me, and I fuck them up.
And having somebody feeding off of that, giving you the vibes back. Yeah, that was an experience. That was something you'll never forget.
You grew up, there were crazy times, especially when you didn't have anybody looking out for you and you could do whatever you wanted. There were some wild times.
You ever think about getting back together?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would say that hopefully, everybody kind of likes, what they're finding out about this history of ours, and maybe something happens from it. I would certainly love to see everybody again.
Would you have said that 25 years ago?
No.
They're still my friends. I would do anything I could to help them.
I love those guys. I always have something for those guys,
At the end of your life, you always want to, you don't harp on the bad times, because then you're.
But you guys have gone 25 years without speaking.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of hurt feelings there, I guess. 25 years is a long time.
They still had all their demons, so they kind of fell apart and went their separate ways. Life starts at that point.
You walk out and you see the amount of people that there are, but after you start playing, you don't even think about who's out there or whatever it is. A lot of times you just tune out even the crowd noise, and you try and concentrate on what you're trying to play, if you remember what you're trying to play. It's an awesome feeling. It's just having somebody screaming your name out. It's who wouldn't want that?